Hello, Church of Beloved family. The elders and I wanted to reach out and give you an update about where things stand at Church of Beloved, given the recent developments with the coronavirus. The Church of Beloved elders and pastors and staff and other leaders have been praying and planning this week about our response to this quickly developing epidemic. The spread of coronavirus is certainly nothing to be taken lightly. Just this past week, the World Health Organization declared the outbreak to be a pandemic, calling on governments around the world to take greater action. The financial markets have been up and down and been extremely volatile. There are these travel restrictions that have been put into place that have been difficult for people to understand, and there's a lot of schools and conferences and other large events that have been canceled. And if you're like me and you've been to the grocery store lately, you can tell from the empty shelves and the long lines that people are starting to give into fear and panic around them. Just to be clear, a dangerous, contagious virus should be taken seriously. And of course, there is wisdom in washing your hands often and for 20 seconds, staying home when you're sick, and taking other good precautions to prevent this virus from spreading. However, for followers of Christ, there's also reason to challenge us not to give into panic and fear-based reactions to the coronavirus. Did you know that in the Bible, we're commanded to not fear more than 300 times? And there's a good reason for that. Fear can lead us to focus on worst-case scenarios and act out of selfish interest, and it compromises our ability to fulfill our calling to love our neighbors as ourselves. It's important to remember that Jesus never commands us to simply be brave. He never told us to suck it up, to hide our anxiety, to suppress our fears just so that we're braver people. No, he commanded us not to fear. The question then is, how do we not give in to our fear? The Word of God tells us this in 1 John. There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear. The reason why we as believers can sometimes give in to fear is because at some level we believe that the forces that oppose us are greater than the ones that we have within us. What the Apostle John is basically saying is that if you knew how perfectly loved you were by God, you would no longer be afraid. And we know that we are loved by God by Jesus' sacrifice for us on the cross. We have freedom from fear because of the way that you and I were loved by Christ at the cost of his life. Rather than falling into panic, those whose eternity rests in their abiding relationship with Jesus are now free to live as instruments of his peace. Peace I leave you, my peace I give you, Jesus said. I bring this up because the actions that we're taking as a church are not out of fear, but out of love for our neighbors, our community, and our world. We announced last Sunday that we had decided to follow the direction of Chicago Public Schools. And now that CPS has officially decided to close the schools, we have made the decision to suspend our regular worship services on Sundays. We are doing what we believe is best for our church. We believe that it is biblical to honor our government and to seek the welfare of the city. And while it is true that the virus is not particularly dangerous to the vast majority of our church people, it is also equally true that this virus is very dangerous to some. And at this time, we want to care for the vulnerable, which in this case is the elderly and immunocompromised. Again, these decisions are not made out of fear, but out of love. At Church of Beloved, the church has never been a weekly event or just a building. We've always believed that the church is a people. At the same time, we recognize and appreciate that for so many of you, our Sunday worship experiences are an important, life-giving, spiritually nourishing time for your week. For now, the plan is to live stream a worship service and to ask that our church people would open up their homes to their small groups and community groups and to participate in the worship service together. Currently, this seems to be a safe and approvable way for our people to continue to be the church. As followers of Christ, we have a very basic calling to show humanity that they are loved, not simply through word, but through our actions. While this embodied change will be challenging for our church, we believe that breaking from physical community during this season is a powerful witness to the world as we seek to love our neighbors as ourselves, especially those most at risk. Because decisions like this will slow the spread of the virus and save lives, we have a powerful opportunity to illustrate the love that God has for this world through our collective work of empathy, compassion, care, and love for our neighbors. So friends, please join us as we band together during this time. Let us continue to pray for and protect those most vulnerable while going out of our way to support and encourage our healthcare professionals in this difficult season. We know that God is still on his throne. We know that he will be working through our church, and we know that we can have freedom from fear even during these uncertain times, not because we ourselves are strong or brave, but because of Christ alone. Church of the Beloved, we love you. We're praying for you. And if there's any way that we can be supporting you during this season, please reach out to us. I hope to see you soon.